Thanks. Good morning. Good outcome on Saturday night. A number of positives. I think we commented on some of them post game, but I think we'll start. Thought both our quarterbacks, when they had the opportunity, played really well. 25 of 30, 4 touchdowns, almost nearly 300 yards passing. So was excited to see their growth and their continued involvement in our process and how we want to do things. He scored 56 points. I think that's most in 5 years. So that's a positive. And then again, we talked about it at halftime that that run game of early in the game, maybe 3 or 4 yards was going to turn into 8 or 10 yards down the road. And I know defensively we had some guys frustrated they didn't get a play enough. But that's what happens when you go seven series of 3 and out, and the offense stays on the field and they convert 8 to 10 third down. So it was a good night. Complimentary football was alive in our stadium. And then defensively being able to make them one-dimensional, I think was really good. You earn the right to rush the passer, and our guys certainly did. I think the last couple things I think were just exciting. We identified them this morning in our team meeting. Was we had 4 players that had their first career touchdowns, and we played probably nearly 80 different people played Saturday night. So I think anytime you can continue to build depth, we consider ourselves a premier developmental program. Got to get people on the field and give them opportunities to get better.
Well, Coach, that's what I wanted to ask you about, the 4 guys scoring their first career touchdown. First of all, have you ever been a part of a game where that happened? Maybe you haven't kept track of it, but B, what does that do for the team? What does that reflect in terms of the investment everybody has when they know they'll get a chance?
Well, I think you kind of answered your own question right there. Is if you continue to invest, you continue to appreciate what we're doing and how we're doing it. Positive things are going to happen. And so, in this world of immediate gratification, sometimes it doesn't happen that way. That's called adversity, and we got to learn how to deal with it. And we often talk about there's 2 ways to deal with it, and that's either outthink it or outwork it. And the guys that you saw that scored touchdowns all have critical roles in our team. A couple of them are seniors now and scoring their first touchdown. That's a huge deal, and hopefully it shows that as long as I show up every day, we're going to have a genuine appreciation for the effort and energy that everyone gives. And I think our kids, they feel that and they know that.
And our friends from Hawaii want to know about your travel plans and what challenges you might face logistically in pulling off this week. A little different trip than usual.
Yeah, it is, and this is my first trip to Hawaii to play a football game, and so we addressed a number of those distractions this morning with our football team. We will leave Thursday. We're going to make sure we'll practice before we leave and try to get as much done as possible. We're going to stay on our schedule throughout the entire trip, and is treated as if once we arrive, it's a home game. But from there, we identified what all the traps and all the rabbit holes are on this trip, so that way there are no excuses, because that's one of our team rules is there are no excuses, and we need to make sure that we are focused and detailed, and we start fast this week.
Another challenge that you're going to face is the start time. Here in California, it's going to be 9 p.m. It's going to feel really late. How are you going to kind of get your players adjusted to that?
I did bring that up today, but then at the same time, I took myself back a couple decades and remembered when I was in college that usually most things didn't start till about 9 p.m. So I think they'll be just fine. I mean, most of them are night owls to begin with. And so based on that, that's not an excuse. You get one shot this week and this is it. And regardless of what time it is, we need to be ready to play.
And it's conference season. Is there any just extra juice you've seen today?
Our kids were locked in this morning. Again, Mondays are kind of those days where we're kind of regrouping, putting a bow on the previous game, and then just introducing the next one. But we got to have a high level of focus. We got to pay even more attention to the details, and not necessarily because it's Hawaii or because it's the first conference game, just because it's the next game. We need to continue to show improvement every week.
You mentioned a few weeks ago about reading up on the history of Fresno State, immersing yourself in Bulldog football. How well do you know the rivalry between Fresno State and Hawaii?
Just a little bit. Coach Baxter's given me a little bit. He's given me the kind of the 2-cent tour of what that rivalry looks like. So I know that they're extremely well coached. They play unbelievably hard. and they're extremely difficult to win or to beat on the island. And so I think they're about 65% win percentage at home, which means they're winning 2 out of 3 games. And then they got good players. They got good players, and they're very prideful of going to that university. And so they're no different than a Central Valley kid who represents our program in the Green V. So it'll be a good week. That's why we have to minimize all the distractions and make sure we're able to start fast on Saturday.
I like the word you use, rabbit holes, and different things that you pointed out along the way. What are some of those things that you're trying to avoid?
Well, I don't know necessarily, we can't avoid them, but let's not sit around and complain about them and feel sorry for ourselves. So there's a 5.5 hour flight. At some point, something probably just based on Murphy's Law is gonna go wrong. Well, if you can't control it, then why are we gonna freak out about it? And that probably just as much talking to myself as I am anyone else right now. It's gonna be 80 degrees with 80% humidity. Most of our kids who are from the Central Valley don't know what humidity is because we seldom have any here. And so it's immediately gonna feel hotter than what it really is. So hydration is gonna be critical. The start time a little bit later. I've never been to the venue. I know we got out front of it, and some of our support personnel were there this spring just to check into it. But you dress kind of in the concourse of the baseball field. There's a lot of unique things that go along with playing there. But I think if we identify them all early, then nobody's going to sit there and be surprised when they happen. Coach told us that on Monday.
Hawaii's defense is pretty good. I think they're second in the conference in yards allowed. What exactly about them makes them tough defensively?
Well, I think they got they have talented players, and I think they do a really good job of coaching them. They have some really talented defensive linemen who create some knockback, play really well at the point of attack. Their kids play extremely hard. I mentioned a minute ago, I think this is their 4th home game in 5 games. They play unbelievably hard. All the time, but even more so, when they're playing a home game. And so, and then, they're going to jump into some 3 safety stuff. They're going to get into some odd structure, double eagle against big personnel. So they're going to have some answers. They're going to have solutions for what we present. And so we just got to make sure that we're continually, trying to take advantage of things. And it's going to be a chess match, hopefully.
Morning, Coach. I heard you say post-game that you stopped practice Wednesday and kind of reset.
We did.
I'm interested how often you've done that in your career.
It's probably maybe once. This might have been the 2nd time. I don't necessarily remember the other one, but odds are there was probably one time.
There's also a moment shared on social media post-game with Dennis on the equipment staff. I'm
Yep.
wondering if you can kind of elaborate on what that moment was.
Well, it was Heroes game, and we felt it was appropriate. As we told the team when we presented Dennis with the game ball, that Dennis is a member of 2 really unique and great organizations. One being he was a Marine and a vet, and the other one he's a Bulldog. And so I don't know if you can come up with a better combination right there.
This is also going to be the final Mountain West Conference for Fresno State. I'm wondering if there's any sort of messaging that goes along with the team for this opportunity that you guys have.
No, just one game at a time. Trying not to get ahead of ourselves, not get out in front of our skis. We just need to make this is the most important game of the season right now because it's the next one.
And lastly, I heard you say you sent some staff out to the island. Have you ever been to Hawaii yourself personally?
I have not. So this will be my first trip as well. I quizzed our team this morning and asked them all, if I say the word Hawaii, what do you think of? And it's amazing, no one said football. And so that's our emphasis this week, is to make sure that we're thinking about football and not all the beaches, the sand, all the other things that you can become distracted with, I'm sure, in what looks like paradise.
Coach, do you have any injury updates for us?
It's early today. I think we're getting healthier. We'll continue to find out. I don't think we have anything that was significant or real serious from Saturday, but again, there's always nicks and bruises. I think we'll know more when we practice this afternoon.
Can we expect Josiah Freeman to be 100% ready to go?
100% is a bold statement. I don't know if anyone's ever 100% after the first day of fall camp, but we're going to get him as close to ready as we can so he can play. I know he wants to play, and he did everything he could last week, and it was kind of a game time decision.
Can you talk a little bit about the secondary and the depth that you have there and the guys who really took advantage of that this past game?
Yeah, we've Coach Benedetto, Coach Meyer have done a really good job with, and Coach Williams have done a really good job with our back end, and we are playing a lot of different people, and I think there's some value there. One, create depth. Unfortunately, things happen, injuries happen during the course of a long season, and so if we can kind of outthink the adversity before it happens, I think that's a positive. But it also allows us to play at a high level. You see some young guys like Jaden Carrillo. Jaden Davis has given us a ton of reps. Andre Cobb came in and played a lot of nickel for us. R.L. Miller's another young man that I think is only scratching the surface, and his ceiling is I don't know where it ends, but I can't wait to see what it looks like trying to get there. And then, of course, you have some veterans on the perimeter, but Joe Briggs came in and played a lot this weekend. So I think anytime you can get multiple people in there and play at a high level, we do it on the D line all the time. You kind of have your A group and your one group up front. Well, if we can do that in some other spots, I think that's a win.
What's your biggest takeaway from non-conference play now that you guys are getting ready for Mountain West play?
That this group enjoys playing football. They enjoy the process. They're starting to understand what our process looks like, because it is different. Today's the first Monday they'll experience of Game 5 with Coach Entz, and so it's still a learning curve, but they're doing a really good job. And I think they're buying into the fact that they're our best football. We haven't played it yet, and we're all striving to play that best game, to put it all together in all three phases, and I think they're willing to do that, and they know that there's improvement to be had.
Coach, run and shoot, maybe not as exotic as it once was, and maybe not what it was in the 2000s. It's maybe a little more mainstreamed. What does this offense look like compared to what you've seen in the past? Is it any different or unique?
Well, I think just the fact that we're going to see 10 personnel, probably 90% of the snaps on Saturday, creates a challenge. I mean, they do a great job of getting the ball in space, forcing you to have to tackle in space, lulling you to sleep with a bunch of hitches and outs and drive routes, and then all of a sudden here comes all vertical or some sort of all-go special concept. And so you're going to have to stay on top of routes. We're going to have to be really disciplined with our eyes, and then we got to be able to change it up. The quarterbacks do a really good job of understanding, from what I understand from kind of the football philosophy or culture on the islands. This run and shoot is it's everywhere. It is the offense of high school football on the island. So I'm sure these quarterbacks both have been operating in this system for a long time and feel really comfortable with it. So we have to do a good job of trying to impact them as well.
Yeah, what is the understanding that you guys have on the quarterback situation and what each of those two might bring?
Well, yeah, I think they're both very talented. Both of them have the ability to escape, have a little bit of creativity, the ability to extend plays. Both are highly accurate. Both have great understanding. Biggest difference is one's a lefty and the other's a righty. But I don't think that's really going to impact kind of the flow of the game. Probably impacts a little bit of some of our scramble rules and or where they're going to try to avoid pressure too. But we'll try to sort that out as we find out who is the starter. But it sounds like 12 has been banged up a little bit. I don't know if it's a knee or an ankle, but I'm sure we'll get them at their best.
I believe this is the first time Fresno State's ever had to put out an injury report leading to this week. Does that change anything on your end? And seeing one from Hawaii, does that impact the preparation?
I don't think so. I mean, tell the truth, you don't have to remember what you said. So we'll put factual information out there.
Congrats on the win, Coach. Harold Duvall got his first catch and his first touchdown as a Bulldog here as a true freshman. What does it mean for you to have a true freshman come in and make an impact?
Well, I think it speaks probably volumes to the potential recruits out there, young men on our football team, that as long as you're coming to work every day, showing up with a willingness to continue to improve, that you're going to reap the benefits of it. And there's a young man at the right place at the right time, and again, EJ trusting a freshman to run the correct route, get open, put the ball right where it needed to be, and that was a big time catch. And you could see just by the energy and the excitement on the sideline how people were excited for Harold at that time.
You guys have ran the ball 143 times through 4 games. Is that the plan going forward to keep?
I hadn't added those up. So as long as it's an equation for success, then we'll continue to do it. But we need to make sure that we have enough variety into our game plans that we can take advantage of what they give us.
Coach, while in Hawaii, do you plan to institute a curfew for your players? Do you have any excursion activities so they can enjoy them, or is it all football focused?
Well, it's going to be mostly football focused. We are gonna go practice at St. Louis High School. We are gonna do one thing that I think it will have some value to the trip. Very low intensity, but we are gonna go visit Pearl Harbor. Unfortunately, the monument is closed, but the visitor center's open. I just think that's a site of one of the largest moments in our country's history. I think there'd be some value for us to go there. We have a number of young men on our team who have grandparents, parents, brothers and sisters that are currently serving in our military, and I think just paying our dues, paying our respects, and visiting something like that. But also, I don't want them sitting around their hotel room all day either, so it serves two purposes.
On Saturday's game, when you made the change at quarterback, in the middle of a series in the third quarter, why was it the right time to make that change?
Well, it wasn't supposed to be in the middle of the series. It was supposed to be on first down. There was some miscommunication on the sideline. But that was my decision on when we changed. I wanted EJ to come back out and have one more series. Did a great job taking the ball right down the field, got in the red zone. Unfortunately, we fumbled. It was our plan going into halftime and through halftime that once we got into the second series of the second half, I wanted Carson to have an opportunity to run our offense. I didn't want it to be a situation where he just turned around and handed it off. I wanted him to get under center, be in the gun, be able to go through his progression in the pass game, and really get the full feel of it.
The offensive line, maybe you evaluate them, like only allowed 2 sacks so far, or 4 sacks this season. And how do you evaluate your freshman Braden Walton, big guy?
They're doing really well. I'm excited about the growth. I'm excited about where they're at. I think there's definitely room for continued improvement, and I think they'd be the first ones that would tell you that. We've had a little bit of kind of reshuffling some people at different times with Julian Polendo, but Julian was recognized internally, as the top offensive lineman of the game, and getting his first start of the season. So, really excited kind of about how that looked, or I should say second start of the season, but they continue to get better. And then, Braden's, it's a work in progress. The more reps he gets, the better he's going to become. That's just human nature. That's how games work like this. And he's going to have, another big challenge this week. I mean, playing left tackle as a 18, 19-year-old in Division I football. That's not necessarily how you write the script, but he's done a really good job of embracing it and maintaining kind of that low pad level and staying humble and willing to work every day.
And would you be able to detail just the nature of Josiah Freeman's injury?
Just a lower body injury.
Coach, when I'm looking at the stats, obviously you got a big disparity in the scoring and the fourth quarter, especially in the second half with you guys, outscoring them. I think it looked like 66 to 19 right now. Does it speak to the way you conditioned this team in the offseason and the way you prepared them in terms of finishing games like this in the last 4 games?
Well, I'd like to think there's something to that. We have our style of practice. We have our mechanisms in practice that we think allow us to play at a high level for 4 quarters. But I also think it's our players just buying into our process. I think it's also our coaches making really good adjustments at halftime. Identifying what we've seen in the first half and what do we need to tweak, what do we need to change to have even greater success. But I think one of the things we talked about it this week is there was a bunch of runs that were 3 and 4 yards early in the first half, and those turned into 8 or 9 yard runs in the second half. And I think just staying consistent too. It doesn't always mean you got to reinvent the wheel at halftime. Sometimes it's just do simple better, and our kids have bought into that, and excited about that. But no, I think our second half, or a willingness to play really well in the second half, speaks volumes of this group.
Any statistical benchmarks you set in the game for keys to victory? I see some coaching staff have those statistical benchmarks.
Yeah, I kind of have my own internally. I don't probably, I think a sum of 55 is a really good number when you talk about rushing attempts plus completions. I think it's like 80% success. I think if you can win the explosive play battle, the missed tackle battle, and the negative play battle, I think you win about 80% of the games as well. So, but those are things that I kind of just I chart. I don't necessarily, talk about them with our team, because I think our team has, they know what they need to do to be successful.
And lastly, I'm looking at one stat from Hawaii, the kicker 11 for 11, he's 5 for 5 within the 40 range. Field position battle, making sure you're not in that field goal range where they can nickel and dime you with some points there. How big is kick coverage and that in that game, especially with a weapon like that?
Oh, it's extremely important. I mean, field position and special teams makes up, about 52% of the yards that are exchanged during the course of a game, so more than half. We've done a really good job up to this point. We need to continue to emphasize it. We will emphasize it. Our kids are buying into it. You can tell just from Saturday, they're having fun being on special teams. We're making plays, blocked field goal, did a great job on coverage, all but one, kind of down the ball inside the 15 a couple times. Those are big plays, and we need to, and even forcing them to punt, just fielding the ball at midfield. Having a short field is critical. So it will be extremely valuable this weekend, especially with an offense that can nickel and dime you with some short throws and take some shots, and having a weapon like that is critical, especially when you get into close games.
Any in-flight entertainment, or is it just film for you?
I think there is some in-flight entertainment. I'm not sure what that entails, but anymore, all our guys have streaming services and will download everything. So I anticipate it'll probably be a relatively quiet flight over.
Sounds good, Coach.
Thank you.
Thanks, Coach.